and Deputy Minister Jamie Chippett. So again, I do want to take some time again to acknowledge the tremendous work and efforts of the firefighters, the pilots, and the wildfire crews. As you can imagine, they're doing incredibly difficult and dangerous work and working around the clock tirelessly to protect us and our communities as best they can, and their efforts are certainly paying off in very difficult times. And I don't think we can thank them enough. Our Provincial Emergency Operations Centre and the Emergency Operations Centre in the affected communities are also putting in extremely long hours. You can only imagine how hard it is to coordinate a situation like this where people are showing up who are scared, worried, nowhere to go, and they are managing to organize that and keep people comfortable during this very difficult time. So thank you for all their efforts and all the people who've shown up to volunteer and provide help, support, food, places to sleep, and as I said yesterday, shoulders to cry on in some situations. And I want to thank again our friends in New Brunswick for answering our call to help through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre. So a bit of an update this morning. There will be an evacuation order for 2 more communities, Ochre Pit Cove and Salmon Cove. So individuals in the communities will be ordered to evacuate, and they will be asked to move and register at the Carbonear Academy. Update on all the fires: the central fire, the Martin Lake fire. The southern edge of the fire is still fairly active. Marginal growth overnight, but it is holding at about 220 hectares. Today, there'll be 17 firefighters on site doing structure protection on cabins and 2 helicopters and 3 802s. The goal right now is to continue suppression on the eastern edge and the southern edge of that fire. Northwest winds are pushing the fire towards the lake, which very much did help suppression, as it wouldn't advance through the lake, but it is now starting to move around the lake. As for the highway, we are continually evaluating whether that highway will be closed. So it's very important that people on the Canaga Peninsula recognize that that potential does exist, and of course can happen at a moment's notice. So just people need to be aware of that. If they need to get off the peninsula for any reason, we suggest you make that decision sooner rather than later, because we are continuing to monitor that, as I said. The Holyrood fire, the main fire there is still very hot, but no growth. That continues to hold at 22 hectares. There are 10 ground crew, a helicopter there today, along with local fire departments. As for the fire, the Kingston fire, still growing and very active. Obviously, that's not a surprise given that we've had to evacuate 2 more communities. The new size as of this morning was 2,175 hectares. Most of the growth yesterday and last night was to the west and the northwest and southwest corners. And the plan for today does remain the same. There will be 30 ground crew, 4 of our tankers will be there, as well as 3 helicopters and local fire departments on structure protection. The ground crews there will focus on the southern edge near Salmon Cove and Perry's Cove. And we will be also working with the contractor there. The Emergency Operations Centre is working with the contractor there to have dozers build up some guards there, some fire breaks, so we can hopefully prevent the fire from moving. So thanks for their efforts as well. Yesterday, we wrote the Federal Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience requesting further assistance. Now, I know that letter was only sent yesterday, but just so everybody is aware, there are 2 federal representatives at the Emergency Operations Centre. And once any crisis like this starts, we're in constant communication with the federal government. They're there with us in the Emergency Operations Centre. The letter is sent when we know that when we know what we need and we know the request is going to be granted. So that was just a bit of a logistical process to go through to actually send that letter. Our request for assistance was with planning and coordination and execution through the Emergency Operations Centre of air transportation and large-scale evacuation and movement operations from the areas. Transportation of people for non-emergency but necessary movement, the provision of additional humanitarian workforce capacity, the provision of wildland firefighters employed with the Canadian Armed Forces, and the transportation of essential goods, including food and medical supplies, in and out of the regions. So happy to report, as I suggested, that the request has been approved, and the Canadian Armed Forces will now be deploying a reconnaissance element to assist and assess the wildfire situation to determine how the Armed Forces can best support our requirements right now. And based on the current need and capacity, the Canadian Armed Forces will be providing personnel to assist with planning and coordination, personnel to assist ongoing firefighter efforts with firefighters as needed, transportation of essential goods and personnel, and logistical support. As well, the Canadian Coast Guard will provide a provision of up to 3 helicopters, a Coast Guard liaison officer with expertise in planning and operation, and up to 2 crew comfort trailers. I did mention yesterday our government was looking at increasing fines for situations where people violate the regulations related to fires and related to flammable items and all sorts of things. We're still working out exactly what the increase in fines will be for. The specifics will be provided in the next 24 hours. But we will be increasing fines substantially to at least $50,000 for a first offense. I do want to be very clear that we feel that this is the right decision now for people who are disobeying the laws, not paying attention, doing this recklessly or selfishly. Those are the people that we want to look at and to punish for essentially violating the law and putting other people's lives at risk. There certainly has been conversations here yesterday and throughout the country about banning other situations like hiking in the woods. I think at this time the right thing to do is to protect the innocent people and the families and the communities who safely enjoy the outdoors here in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's a big part of our culture. It's a big part of our way of life in the summer and the winter. And we feel that we should hold the people who are reckless and responsible to account at this time. So that's a decision that we've made. I know Canada Games is coming up very soon. Just so you know, Canada Games continue to work with the Emergency Operations Centre and providing updates as required. Of course, the health and safety of the athletes and the volunteers is going to be the top priority. I'll ask Minister Haggie for any comments.
Thank you very much, Premier. Again, I'd like to reiterate thanks to the emergency personnel and first responders and my own constituents from Gander, the men and women who fly the water bombers, and Chris and his team who keep them in the air. They've been working really hard and continue to do so and will do so as long as it's necessary. So, again, thank you very much. I'd also like to echo the Premier's comments, thanking the municipal leaders I spoke with yesterday who are very open, very helpful, and have practical suggestions as to how we can improve our response, as well as Minister Olszewski, who I was talking to a couple of days ago, in actual fact, in advance of the letter. She replied to me at, I think it was midnight, that the official request had been granted. So thank you very much. We are starting to see some challenges with accommodation in the area of the fire around Victoria and that kind of community. And we're starting to look at whether or not we need to relocate our reception centre. And that will be looked at over the course of the day to see if we need to be in a larger facility, given the fact that there are now other communities being evacuated. I've just recently had a note from Airbnb, who are offering evacuees free vouchers. How you can get these, we will put out in an advisory later as soon as we have the details, and we appreciate their help in this situation. So again, the Canadian Red Cross and Salvation Army are working hard. I believe 200 breakfasts were served in one location this morning. So it's a testament to their organisational skills that they have ramped up so well. I would encourage everybody to keep an eye for official sources of information and to be careful when you're outside and out and about. We're hearing a lot on social media about people who allege they know who is setting fires, and yet these people will not talk to the RCMP. If you know, you should tell, because if you don't, you're helping them. So that final message, the majority, as the Premier said, of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are keen to enjoy the outdoors safely and peacefully. And we are doing our best to support that, given the challenges we've got at the moment. So with that, I'll take a pause there and hand it back to the Premier.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Dempster.
Thank you, Premier. I'll make 4 quick points myself. Over the last 24 hours in particular, a lot of the reach outs to me have been around ATVs and ATV use and what they can do. And so I just want to remind the viewers that off-road vehicles must be equipped with a proper screening or baffling device to prevent sparks from escaping. And ATV operators must carry a fire extinguisher with a minimum of 225 grams of ABC class dry chemical when traveling in a grassy or wooded area. And I want to add to this that we are really stressing, emphasizing, if you're out on an ATV right now, stay on the trails. There's been some misinformation flying around ATVs, so I just wanted to provide that clarity. Also, we continue to remind property owners, and it's so important when we see some of the pictures of burnt over areas and properties that have been saved. Sometimes that's attributed to property owners that have really done their own work to protect their own homes, neighborhoods, and communities. So I want to remind folks, Fire Smart Canada has wonderful information if you're wondering what you can do around, maintaining buffers around your home, how to have fire-safe areas within that, and where to place your firewood piles, trimming your grass. All these details, you can find them at Fire Smart Canada. But I think those that might be worried, is my community next? It would be important to go to that site right now and have a look. Also, there's been lots of thank yous and bouquets tossed, and I want to thank the communities that have been evacuated for their cooperation. Sometimes in the past, when we're asking folks to leave, there's some that want to stay behind. We've seen tremendous cooperation this time, and I think that deserves some acknowledgement. In addition to that, we know that this can create fear and anxiety. You know, when the Premier and I are out walking around, meeting with some evacuees, it's not uncommon to come up on, a widow who lived alone and now she's in this crowded space. And we want to remind people that we do have mental health resources and supports are on hand at each reception area. If you're outside that area and you feel like you need help, you can go to resources like Bridge the Gap online or always call 811. And my final, just to pick up on my colleague from Justice around people knowing things and not reporting, I want to remind folks that if you suspect any illegal activity, you can reach out to our Resource Enforcement Division, and the number is 729-2192, 729-2192. And with fire, weather indexes set to continue to climb over the next couple of days, I think it's of paramount importance that every one of us remain extremely vigilant. I'll turn it back to you, Premier.
Yeah, just on that comment about being vigilant, as I said, innocent Newfoundlanders and Labradorians deserve to enjoy their summer like they always have in the past, but that doesn't mean people shouldn't be careful. Just think about what you're doing when you are enjoying the outdoors. Be extra careful. If you're on your ATV, maybe just make sure, you didn't leave a hot area behind. If you're having a cigarette, don't have a cigarette in the woods. Wait till you get home. Wait till you get indoors. All really simple things that can go a long way in making sure we don't have further forest fires. There are a minimal, or a finite, I should say, amount of resources, not only in the province but in the country. It's obvious to say, but the fewer fires that we have, it means the resources can focus on the fires that we do have. So I am asking every single Newfoundlander and Labradorian to just think about it and to help and to pitch in over the next few weeks and months.
Do you know if there have been any new structures that have been damaged in the last 24 hours? Don't
have any confirmation on any additional new structures. I think it's kind of status quo where we've been since Tuesday.
How many people are going to be sent by the feds, and when are they actually going to arrive in the province?
Yeah, so Minister Hecky can probably confirm a little bit better, but I mean, it's ASAP, and the numbers obviously as needed, but just happy to get that commitment from them that we've been working on over the last 24, 48 hours.
There is a presence of Canadian forces on PEOC. It's a standing member of the committee, so that liaison exists already. And St. John's is a Coast Guard base, so I'm anticipating some of the Coast Guard elements could be handy very quickly.
Minister, what do you mean when you say accommodation challenges? Are there how many people don't have a place to stay right now?
You would actually be best talking to the Red Cross. They're handling the accommodation in terms of numbers. What I'm hearing is simply a preventative measure. We have potentially another 900 evacuees. By and large, about 80% of those individuals find accommodation for themselves. And to those, I would actually say, remember, you need to register as well. We need to keep track of everybody. For the 20% who don't, then the Red Cross, by and large, sort out the accommodation, and I would regard them as the first point of contact for anybody who has uncertainty about where they're going to rest their head tonight. The Salvation Army kind of feed those that turn up, and they're very good at doing that.
And just to be clear to people, who are at Prosalvic School and people in Victoria, Victoria is not under an evacuation alert. So that's the first step before there's evacuation order. So everybody in those communities right now, in that community I should say, is safe, including the evacuees. What we're looking at is, because, as Minister Haggie said, there will be an increased number of evacuees now that there's been 2 communities evacuated. It might be better to have everybody under one facility for logistical purposes. Obviously, we don't have to bring suppers to 2 places. We can bring it to 1. We don't have volunteers spread out through 2 communities. They can all be under 1 roof. So that's the logistical aspect that we're looking at. So everybody in Victoria, nothing has changed. You're safe. There's no evacuation alert, let alone evacuation order, and that includes the evacuees at Prosalvic School right now.
How many people in total are under evacuation order right now? How big has this become?
The numbers for the communities obviously are continuing to add up. It's obviously it got bigger in the last half hour, of course, with 2 new communities. But having been to Victoria twice already in the last 3 days, I can tell you that I feel comfortable that the situation there with the volunteers and with the staff dealing with people who have been evacuated is under control. There are individuals from Victoria who are continuing to drop by to make sure everybody's okay and make sure everybody has what they need, because obviously they're very close to the situation. So I'm comfortable, and I think we're all comfortable right now that this can be managed, and it will continue to be managed. Obviously, fire suppression efforts will be continued, so we don't have to continue to expand the evacuation order.
As of now, will the contingent from the Canadian Armed Forces be focusing on the Conception Bay North fire, or will they be working on all 3 fires, or how does that work?
Yeah, they'll be deployed as necessary, but if you go back and look at the update today about where the resources are, the focus is, shouldn't say the focus is on all 3 fires, but I think that Conception Bay fire, the Kingston fire we're calling it, certainly seems the one that needs the most attention today. I think that's fair to say.
Is there any kind of outlook over the next few days of what the weather forecast looks like?
No rain, lighter winds, but I think the forecast for next week, which of course we all know can change, will be increased winds. So it's very important, we put full efforts into making sure we can do what we can to suppress the fires before the winds pick up next week.
Could you give us an example of what exactly Canadian Forces members or coastal members will be doing and why that was so important to ask for?
Yeah, go ahead, Minister.
Yeah, well, obviously the Coast Guard are providing crew rest trailers, crew comfort trailers. So that's a very practical approach. There's crew for the up to 3 helicopters that they will provide. The military initially send in, back in my day, it used to be called DART team. They have a small core of experienced planners who go, put boots on the ground, and then summon the help that they feel is appropriate to act in support of what FFA and local responders are doing on the ground. So it's a flexible response. They don't just have a standard cookie-cutter approach.
Do they become like the superseding authority, for example?
I'm sorry?
Do they become like authority coordinating? I mean, is there some duplication? Because right now some of you guys are doing some of that.
They are in support of the civil power, so we run the show.
The $50,000 fines, what would you have to do to get one of those? And how did you arrive at that figure?
Yeah, so you would, again, we're going to provide the details of what exactly those fines apply to, but if you look at the Forestry Act and the regulations, there's numerous regulations where you can be fined for doing various things, such, for example, having a fire without a permit is one example. That fine will very much likely be increased to $50,000 as an example for one type of violation. So we'll have the details of exactly what the fines will apply to over the next, like I said, 24 hours. How did we arrive at that? We had a discussion to show that this is serious, that we mean business, and that we're focusing on individuals who, if they do violate these regulations, will pay the price. But I hope that the increased fines will mean that people don't violate the prohibitions. That is really the goal here. I'm not interested in punishing people. I'm interested in people not breaking the law in the first place.
What about the beach bonfires? Does that fine cover that as well?
Again, the details, if you were having a fire without a permit, yes, this would cover that.
Okay.
Is there, you've spoken about that yesterday, and despite how forthright you were yesterday, probably as forthright as you could possibly be in your position, we still hear of 2 fires that were under investigation at the very least by the St. John's Fire Department. Are fines enough? I just wonder if there's anything else you can do, I guess, because it feels like it's already all out on the table, and yet this is still happening.
Yeah, well, yesterday we said we increased fines. Today we're saying it's going to be a minimum of $50,000, and, we'll continue to look at everything we can do. I hope that this makes people realize that there are serious consequences to their actions, and I really hope we wouldn't have to do this and that people would realize the fact that houses are burning down, there can be serious consequences to your actions.
Will those, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jessica.
No, you go.
Okay. So will those fines, you said the update will be provided in the next 24 hours. Will those fines be in effect as of tomorrow?
Yes.
So fighting the wildfires, obviously, we have a lot of volunteer fire departments on the ground, and many of them only have the typical bunker gear and not the other gear that you usually would typically wear to fight wildfires. And would the provincial government then consider equipping these volunteer firefighters with more suitable gear?
I mean, that's not going to happen in the short term. I certainly thank the fire departments, as I did yesterday, for all their work. As I said, they're the heartbeat of communities, especially rural Newfoundland and Labrador communities. So many fire chiefs are the mayor and councillor as well. They do so much work, and as I said yesterday, they don't only respond to fires, they respond to medical calls as well. And again, reiterate what I did say this
I don't want to get demoted.